Nothing lasts forever, and that includes our favorite TV shows. A successful show turns into a multi-year commitment for any actor. It can be difficult for them to stay with it when better opportunities, creative differences, or other issues come up. Keep watching to learn about actors who demanded to be written out of their shows. Josh Charles. Josh Charles played Will Gardner in The Good Wife. His character's death seemed sudden, but it turned out it was planned well in advance. He'd been considering leaving the show for a year before his contract expired after season 4 and decided not to renew it. He admitted during a CBS screening in 2014 that he still loved the show but was feeling burnt out and had to move on. Dean Norris. Dean Norris asked Breaking Bad's creator Vince Gilligan to kill off his character in the first half of the 5th season. It was split into 2 sets of 8 episodes, and he died in the first half. This gave Dean more time to work on other projects, including a comedy pilot. John Francis Daly. Lance Sweets was one of the most beloved characters on Bones, and he stayed around for 10 seasons. The actor who played him asked to be killed off when an opportunity to direct the National Lampoon's Vacation remake came along. Patrick Dempsey. Derek Shepherd died in a sudden car accident in season 11 of Grey's Anatomy. The reason was kept quiet, so it seemed as sudden as possible. Grey's Anatomy was one of the longest-running shows on TV, and Patrick Dempsey was ready to move on. He wanted to try other projects and starred in Bridget Jones's Baby soon after. T.R. Knight. T.R. Knight played George O'Malley on Grey's Anatomy. He stayed on for 5 years and then began to have a, quote, breakdown in communication with showrunner Shonda Rhimes. He asked to leave, feeling he couldn't trust any answer she gave about his character. George Clooney. George Clooney was one of the first hot doctors on TV as Dr. Doug Ross on ER. His dreamy presence on ER couldn't last forever, and he was written out at the end of season 6. He wanted to pursue a film career, and that may have been one of his best decisions ever. Daniel Gillies. Another sudden medical drama death was the loss of Dr. Joel Gorin on Saving Hope. He pulled out a bomb from a patient and died when it exploded. Actor Daniel Gillies asked for the change to lessen his busy schedule. He was filming Saving Hope and the originals at the same time. He made 40 to 42 episodes a year instead of the average of 18 to 22. He was filming in Toronto and needed more time with his wife and 2 children in Los Angeles. Kal Penn. Kal asked to leave House for a new opportunity, but one like few other actors would ever see. He was offered a place in President Obama's administration. He had a, quote, incredible time on the show, but couldn't pass the new job up. His character, Dr. Lawrence Kuttner, was killed off in season 5. Steve Carrell. Steve Carrell joked in an interview that it would be his last year as Michael Scott on The Office. The response he got made him seriously consider the idea. He resigned from the show after season 7. Fans assumed he wanted to pursue a film career, but that wasn't the whole truth. His contract was up, and NBC didn't offer up any negotiations to keep him on, so he walked out. Dan Stevens. This Downton Abbey star left after 3 years in 2012. He was optioned for 3 more, but wanted to pursue other roles. His character, Matthew Crawley, died in a car crash, and he said he's, quote, still apologizing for ruining fans' Christmas with the scene. Rob Lowe. Rob Lowe's career got a boost when he began playing Sam Seaborn on The West Wing. He was one of the most popular characters, but there was one major problem. He only made $75,000 per episode, while Martin Sheen made $300,000. He left the show in 2002 after 3 years, when this disparity caused a pay dispute. He thanks the producers for letting him leave gracefully and doesn't regret being on the show, saying it was a part of TV history that he'll never forget. Connie Britton. Connie Britton began considering leaving the show Nashville when it switched networks from ABC to CMT. She began feeling inner conflict halfway through the 5th season. Her character, Raina James, was killed in a car crash, but is seen in flashbacks in the final season. Donald Glover. Donald Glover landed one of his first major TV roles as Troy Barnes in the sitcom Community, but his music career took off soon after. Even his castmate Danny Pudi realized he had talent when he heard him on set and realized, oh, you're gone. Troy Barnes was written off after 5 seasons with his character going around the world on a boat. A later episode hinted that he was captured by pirates. Donald is now an award-winning musician and showrunner. Andrew Lincoln. Andrew Lincoln played Rick Grimes, a central character on The Walking Dead. He'd been there since the beginning of the hit zombie show, and fans were surprised when he was killed in season 9. He had asked to be written off to spend more time with his family. Fans were pleased when the ambiguous ending his character was given allowed him to return in the spin-off Fear the Walking Dead. Jim Parsons. For a normally unemotional character, Sheldon Cooper was the heart of The Big Bang Theory. It earned Jim Parsons a Golden Globe and an Emmy. It also made him one of the highest-paid TV actors of all time. But he was willing to give it up. He asked for season 12 to be his last. CBS tried to get him to stay and even offered him a $50 million contract for 2 more years of work. He declined the generous offer, and the show ended when he left. Mandy Patinkin. Mandy Patinkin was upset with the way his character, Jason Gideon, was handled on the show Criminal Minds. When his creative differences with the showrunners couldn't be solved, he stopped showing up to work. The writers had no choice but to have him shot to death off-screen. David Duchovny. Actors often have their own opinions on how long a show should go, and David Duchovny always thought that 5 seasons of The X-Files was enough. He ended up staying for 7, but decided to quit after that. The writers, true to the show's themes, had his character Fox Mulder abducted by aliens. Chad Michael Murray. Chad Michael Murray played Lucas Scott, the main character of One Tree Hill. He almost stayed with it until the end, but left when he couldn't negotiate a pay raise with the studio, and he didn't appear in season 7. Topher Grace. The final season of that 70s show went on without one of its major characters, Eric Foreman. After 6 seasons, he was written out by going on a year-long trip to Africa. Topher Grace was ready to move on from TV to films. He had already landed a part as Eddie Brock in Spider-Man 3 and wanted to roll with the change in his career path. Alyssa Milano. Alyssa shined as the lead in the drama Mistress, and fans were sorry not to see her in season 3. The reason was a family affair. She wrote on her website that moving to Vancouver to film wasn't worth it because it would force her to be away from her family. In her own words, quote, "Being a mother and wife comes first." McLean Stevenson. His character, Henry Blake, was killed off in the season 3 finale. McLean Stevenson wanted to build a name for himself outside of the show. He realized that no one knew him outside of his character, and he needed to take on other roles to develop a full career. Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Randy Taylor was a popular character on Home Improvement, but left before its final season to go on an environmental study program in Costa Rica. It confused fans, but mirrored the desires of actor Jonathan Taylor Thomas. He explained he'd been working since he was 8 years old. He needed to experience the world and go to school like a normal child. Leaving the show gave him a chance to do that. Now it's time to hear from you. What's the most shocked you've been by a character being written out of a show? Let us know in the comments section below.